Hey y'all, it's Michelle and I'm excited to be with you guys tonight talking about exactly what I do every day, why it matters, sort of why it doesn't, and also give you a little bit of a kick in the pants that you might not enjoy, but I hope that it will push you over the edge the way this same kind of realization sort of pushed me over the edge and allowed me to approach my business in a totally new and fresh and really determined way. So I was going to do this on this little live stream on Be Live TV. This is like the 5th time it screwed me over with internal service errors, and so I'm not sure I'm loving it anymore. So I'm just right here on my phone, and I hope that I don't get call after call after call like I do every other time. So exactly what I do all day, every day, and day in and day out. I get a lot of questions about this, like, what do my days look like? What do I do? When do I do it? How long does it take? Do I use this tool or do I use this other platform? If so, how do I use it? And I gotta be honest with you, this is sort of a humbling new reality for me to have people who are looking at my business and looking at me and wanting to not exactly model their behavior after mine, but wanting to know how I do what I do. This is new and it's humbling and exciting, and it gives me a renewed commitment to do well in this business, so that I'm teaching what really works and what works today. And so I just appreciate the questions. I want to answer those questions in this live stream training, but I also want to get to the heart of the question, which is sort of like, where's the magic in what you're doing? Where's the fairy dust that allows me and Women Who Wow to be prospering and thriving and growing and taking new ground when other people are struggling to kind of keep their proverbial doors open, or maybe they're not able to keep their proverbial doors open? And this is something that so I want to answer that, right? But I also want to get to the heart of it, which is really like, where is the magic? And what happens is people want to see what I'm doing, and I'll definitely answer that in detail in this training, but they want to get to what's behind it. Like, what is it that I'm doing that they're not doing, or how am I doing something different that's getting me results that they want to get? And so that's really the heart of this, and I don't want to take that for granted. And so I want to talk about my days for a little bit. So I'm not sure how many of you guys might have read the book Baby Wise when your kids were infants. And I think they have like Baby Wise and Toddler Wise and probably Kid Wise. I don't know. But it was really popular when my oldest was an infant. And what it really talked about was, it was a book about this thick, and it went through, like, I didn't even read the whole book, but it went through like a bunch of different rules and systems, and do this at this time and do this for X number of hours and then do this and blah, blah, blah. And that's like way too regimented for me. And I almost just disregarded the book, but so many people recommended it that I figured there had to be like some gold in it. And for me, the gold was, nurse the baby as soon as they wake up, give the baby like playtime or tummy time, and then put the baby to sleep without nursing. That was the key. It was like an order kind of thing. It was a, I'm not really sure what to call it, but the order of things changed everything for me. And so as I go through this, I really want you to kind of think about what is in my day that might make a huge change just with a small little shift. Because the truth is, before I read Baby Wise, I was nursing, playtime, tummy time, nursing, nap. And it just, eliminating that one nursing made all the difference in the world. And so you want to look for that kind of things as I kind of go about my day. I want you to consider like some rhythms, some order, some habits that you might want to take and implement into your own business. And so just to kind of answer the questions that I've been getting, like, I wake up around 5:30 every day. Sometimes it's earlier, usually it's not later, but 5:30 is sort of my standard. If I'm not up earlier, my alarm would go off at 5:30, and I wake up and I feed Smalls and let Smalls out while I get my body Bible, and I do some Bible time, and I use, for my Bible time, I use like the First 5 app from Proverbs 31 and whatever other Bible study that I'm currently in. Then I journal, right? And so this is, it's very quiet. It's just me and Smalls. Everybody else is usually asleep. And so I'll journal for a little bit and pray and, you know, have sort of my quiet time. And then I go right into messaging. And so, you know, I do my entrepreneurial espresso for my Women Who Wow members first. If you're not a Women Who Wow member, BeMichellePippin.com/Women Who Wow is where you can join our our waiting list for when we open the doors again for new members. But I message for them the entrepreneurial espresso, and our members have said that this is something they really look forward to in the member group, because when they wake up and they might feel like maybe their day is getting out of control, or maybe their day is not going to be that productive, or they're not really sure what they're doing, they can go in and find something every day, that entrepreneurial espresso, a little shot of inspiration for their day. And so I write that first thing in my morning, and I hope that it inspires our members first thing in their morning. And then I go straight into messaging, writing my blog post for the day. And so in answer to some of the questions that have come in, what I do is I type the message, the blog, what eventually becomes a blog post. I type that right into Facebook, and then once it goes up there, I'll share it on my personal page, as well as in the Women Who Wow Facebook group, and anywhere else it might seem like relevant and not spammy. And then someone else takes it and puts it onto BeMichellePippin.com, which is the official blog for Women Who Wow, and then we also share it to other social media channels. And so that is the sort of how the first part of my morning goes. And this is before anybody else wakes up. And so after all of that, that's when I look at my schedule for the day, right? So I've already planned for my day, obviously, the night before, but that's when I really look at my schedule for the day. Okay, what do I have, et cetera, et cetera. After I look at my schedule and kind of make notes about how I might spend the day, then the family wakes up. After the family wakes up and I do the family thing for a little bit, then I go into checking email. And so I've been up and working and messaging for a couple hours prior to ever checking my email. After I check my email, I do, I heard someone call this fame work, and I really like that, but I don't want to steal her phrase. So I do like my expand my territory work. And I do this for me and for my private clients. That's essentially responding to hero requests, responding to reporter requests, responding to inquiries and requests for us to be on someone's podcast or the radio show or what have you. After that, probably around, by now it's maybe 11 o'clock, then I will do any phone calls for follow-up, right? And so this is personal and professional, but any phone calls I need to make. And then 2 days a week around noon, I start to have private client appointments. And if I don't, or after those, I go back to my own work, the things that I have to do in terms of messaging, showing up for my members, creating content for my members, creating content for my clients, et cetera, et cetera. And so, but here's the thing, like, people are asking me, I just went through my whole day, I have notes here, but people are asking me this for a specific reason, right? It's not that they're fascinated or even like super curious about me, right? That's not really why they're asking. They're asking because they want a recipe, a system, of some sort to start to create fast success for themselves. And that's totally fine. But I don't live by recipes or rules or blueprints. Like, I've totally tried and it doesn't work for me, right? It totally doesn't work for me to try to live by those like rules and blueprints and try to dot every I and cross every T. Hold on. Barbara Corcoran actually says that the surest way to find success is to make up your own rules. And I totally, totally agree with her. It's something that I've found ever since I was a kid, like living by other people's rules just was an irritant to me. And it also just made me feel like not great. So even when I have been motivated by money to try a system or a blueprint that didn't allow me to show up and be me, one, I didn't stick with it long enough to see if it worked, but most of the time it really didn't work, right? It just didn't work even if you implemented to a T, because your success depends on you showing up fully and completely you. That is what it depends on, right? So I want you to really think about that. Like whatever system, whatever rules, like I'm flattered that you guys are asking about my day, but whatever rules, whatever mentor you're considering following, like there has to be room for you to do it your way. Otherwise, I promise you, it's gonna fall flat. And so I just want you to kind of keep that in mind, right? Make your own rules. Still though, even though that's my whole mindset, that's the way I live my life, still, I always look for like habits or principles or like universal truths on which to kind of build my plan, right? I like to work with things that always work, right? No matter where they're applied. I like to work on principles and not blueprints and things and you know, kind of truths instead of rules and systems and all of that. And so I wanted to answer those questions that that were coming in, but I don't want to be obtuse, but the magic really isn't in exactly how I order my days or exactly how I construct my work days. And I do use that word very deliberately. I construct my work days so that, Denise, thank you. Denise is my very best friend. So she says, you are so awesome. And it's because she loves me. So anyway, but you know, it's not, the magic isn't in like what I'm doing and when I'm doing it and how I'm doing it and where I'm putting it. The magic is in something else entirely. And so if you came here for the butt kicking and said that that might be something that you need, I might have to agree with you that it might be something that you need, so don't shoot the messenger. But I promised our Women Who Wow members that I would sort of reveal on this live stream the decision that propels you out of the misery of the mediocre, out of the mediocrity of the bottom 80% of business owners and into the top 10 to 20% of entrepreneurs, top 20%, and I just want to be very clear what I'm talking about. You know, we've learned that 80% of businesses are failing, right, or on their way to failing. And so our members are in the top 10 to 20%. They are succeeding, but not only that, they're in the top 10 to 20% industry-wise in income, but also in influence, impact, but also in freedom. You know, they do make their own rules, and we're not ankle chained to success that we don't like, right? We're not ankle chained to our desk when we no longer want to be there. We have a lot of freedom. And so if you want out of that 80% struggling and many times failing to make ends meet, struggling and trying to figure your way into success, and you want to propel yourself into that land where you have time and money freedom, here's the thing, right? I want to talk to you about some things I hear, not really from our Women Who Wow members, although sometimes, right? Because we all can get to, we can all get this to this space in our business, but I hear from people all the time about what they cannot do. Right? I can't do that. I couldn't do that. I don't have time for that. You know, my people, you know, like my target market this, or my budget that, or my industry this, or my current situation is that. And there's all these reasons why they can't do what's required of them to create the success that they want, and frankly, that they deserve. Right? And they're sick of seeing people who are not as good as them, making more money than them, being more successful than them, people who don't have the integrity that they have, and they're sick of it. And yet, they have a whole list of things they can't do, right? For whatever reason, right? Even when asking for help, they're immediately pointing out what they can't do, why things won't work for them. And honestly, like, it makes me want to pull my hair out, right? Because as long as you're living in the world of can't, you know, I can build a bridge all day long to where I live, but I don't have the strength or the time to walk you across that bridge. And so if you're living in that world, I just need to, first of all, I think I should probably come clean that I have definitely definitely lived in that world. I actually made a list of my own excuses, and I'll go over those in a minute. But the first thing I want to do is ask you, which is more real? Which is more like palpable in reality, what you feel the weight of? Is it your excuses of why you can't do this or that, why you can't follow through, why you can't say this to your market, why you can't do this right now, whatever? Is that more real, or is your calling more real? Right? Because I'll be honest with you, for many years, I did a fine business. I've been very blessed in business. I've been able to make money nearly from, actually not nearly, from the get-go, largely because I had to make money from the get-go. There was no wriggle room or plan B. I've been very blessed in that regard. But I kind of spun my wheels for a really long time because I didn't, like, my calling in this, my goal, my vision for Women Who Wow, it was less real to me than the everyday pressures that I was feeling on a day-to-day basis, the everyday responsibilities of being a mother and a wife and a granddaughter and a daughter and a sister, and all these things that kind of were pressing down on me. And so I started building, somebody told me, and I'm going to get the analogy wrong, but somebody told me that, you want to write down your financial goals, because everybody who has a financial goal for you writes it down, i.e. your mortgage statement or bills. They come in the mail, and it's not like just pay us, they have an actual number. And when we see those bills, they're very real to us. We know we owe that money. And so we need to make our own income. We have to write those numbers down so that our income goals become equally real to us. So when I heard that analogy, I remember kind of having this aha moment of the fact that my vision for what I really wanted in my business wasn't as real to me. It didn't feel as real to me. I couldn't like taste it the way I could the stresses and the pressures and the things that I frankly were true, but I use as excuses to allow me to keep playing small, keep phoning stuff in, etc. And how you show up in your business every single day will let me know, but will mainly let you know what your answer is to that question. If your excuses are more real, or if your vision, your calling is more real. And it's all about how you show up. So the truth is, you get to choose, right? Whether you fall into the category of the bottom 80% of struggling entrepreneurs, or whether you are in the top 10 to 20% of entrepreneurs. So I don't want you to get mad and like leave just yet watching this video. I'm not saying that your excuses aren't true, right? I'm not saying they're not true, right? I'm not calling you a liar. I've been there. I want to tell you, actually, I wrote these down, a list of my own excuses, because they might sound familiar to you. And these were all excuses about why I should be playing small, why I didn't want to take big risks, why I didn't want to really go for it, why I didn't want to go all the way in. And so here are my list. So one of them, I had a sick and dying grandfather that I was responsible for caring for. This was about 40 to 45 hours a week for a long time, and that was a big commitment. I had young kids. I had nursing kids, I had multiple kids in multiple travel sports, and these things are things that were very real, very time consuming. I didn't make them up as an excuse, but I was willing to use them as an excuse to keep me from really going all in, right? When I considered my vision for what I really wanted at my business, when I considered that, I would have this like voice like, oh, well, maybe now's not your time, maybe now's not your time. And I tell you, like, if not now, when, right? If not now, when? And so, so that's, the same with elderly parents, absolutely. And so like today, my full day was hijacked due to what I'm calling like Meemaw duty, right? Full day hijacked. And, there's some screws in her back and she thought they came out and, whatever. And so all of these things are true. I'm not denying their trueness, they're facts. I just want you, and this is really the challenge of today's live stream. This is really it. I guess it's like a, what pastors say is like a 45-minute introduction to a 5-minute sermon. But this is really the challenge. I want you to forget the facts for a second, right? Like, I want you to forget the facts. I know they're true. Whatever it is for you, young kids, old parents, like too busy schedule, blah, 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 full-time job. Get the facts for a second. And I want you to only look at how you're showing up in your business, right? My mom's mom, who I never met, but she would say, I would hear stories about her saying, you know, on a beer budget or something like that. Sorry about that. And so anyway, so we kind of have an ability where our expectation that we can show up in this maintenance role in our business, but expect like some rock star return, right? Just, it's not going to happen. And so I want you to forget your excuses and say, how am I showing up, right? How am I showing up? What are my actions like today? Because here's the decision that will make all the difference in your business. You get to choose, all of us do, you get to choose today and every day, whether you're gonna settle for fighting the same freaking battles over and over and over again in your business, or whether you're gonna go all in, refuse to be part of that 80% of struggling business owners, and decide to be in the top 10 and 20% of entrepreneurs in your industry or entrepreneurs in general, right? So the question really is, are you all in? Not in your heart, right? I already know your heart's all in, right? I already know that you feel it. I already know you feel like you have a calling and a big purpose. I already know that about you, right? So are you all in? Not in your heart and not in your intentions. I do know what you want to do. I do know what you intend to do. I know what your best laid plans are, right? But I'm asking, are you all in your day-to-day, how you're showing up? You get to decide, right? You get to decide, am I going to show up as a rock star and expect rock star results? Or am I going to show up as some maintenance worker just doing the bare minimum and expecting rock star results as in return? Like, that's just not even common sense. And so, but we often don't think of it that way, because we like mistake we get all mixed up. We have these intentions and we know in our hearts we're all in. And so that convolutes our ability to see how we're showing up, right? So I'm asking, are you all in it in your actions? If I didn't hear anything, if I didn't know anything about you, if I didn't get excited about your vision, right? But I was just a fly on the wall, or we did a reality TV series in your office, and all we could see was your actions, right? Would we be able to tell that you are all in? And you can either have, you know, and here's, I guess, the final thought, like, you can either have your habits, your pace, and your excuses that you accept, obviously, for yourself. You can either have your habits, pace, and excuses align with that struggling 80%, who show up when they feel like it, who show up under ideal conditions, who don't expect obstacles, and when they do, they think, what does it mean, right? That's the 80%. Or do your habits, pace, and action align with the top 10 to 20%, right? Here's the thing. I can't see your heart or your intentions. All I can see is your habits, your pace, and your action. And when we let ourselves off the hook too much because we believe in our hearts we're called and we're in it, and just one day, then we start to slowly slide back down into that 80%. It's an easy and slow fade. So we've got to really look at just our actions, right? You do get to choose whether you are wildly profitable and successful in your business, right? Which is a daily habit, or whether you'll kind of accept however this thing goes, right? Not only do you get to choose every day, but you really have to choose every day. And so I hope this helps. I hope that answering your question about exactly how I craft my days is helpful. I think the biggest thing I can tell you about that is that I craft my days. I choreograph them to make sure that the most important work is getting done right up front, consistently, habitually, right? I choreograph them so where my pace, I also don't want the pace to be too slow because that demotivates me. And so my days, I don't allow them to happen willy-nilly. right? I do craft them. And so while I shared with you exactly like how my mornings go and what comes first and what comes next and blah, 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 I don't want you to get into that so much. The magic isn't there. The magic is in the crafting of that and in the decision that I was not going to settle for a feast or famine business. I was not going to settle for a business that I was always barely making ends meet. I was always one client away. And when I made that decision, I immediately had to align my habits, my pace, and my actions with those who were already wildly successful and wildly profitable. And I challenge you to do the same. So I appreciate you guys letting me, first of all, asking these questions. It was very humbling to get those questions from you about how I do what I do and when I do it and why I do it and where I do it and all of that. That was very humbling, and I appreciate that. And I hope that you have accepted this like huggable butt kicking from me to decide, right? Decide and show up different tomorrow. Show up different tomorrow. Show up as the rock star that you are, right? Get out of that maintenance mode. Lose your excuses. Acknowledge them. Do what you can, fix them if you can, but show up anyway, right? Regardless. Talk with you guys soon. And for our Women Who Wow members, we have a really, really cool training tomorrow, actually, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. And that's about discovering what your linchpin is in your business. So excited about that. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.